All right, guys, I'm gonna go over this Toyota Tacoma behind me. Check out the suspension system that we put on it. This is the King shocks with the Camburg Trail Series long travel suspension. Also with the slapper bump stops, rear bump stops, and bypass shocks. So let's go check this thing out. All right, so we have this Toyota Tacoma in the shop today. This has the Camberg Trail Series long travel suspension, Camberg full billet machined and welded together spindles, billet upper control arms. This system is 2 inches wider per side, and we're running this with the King 3.0 IBP shocks with the adjuster on the finned reservoir. So this is a billet aluminum reservoir with this nice bracket that goes to the frame with these billet mounts here, fully adjustable, and that adjusts the flow from the shock body and all the oil in there. When you push in the shaft, it's going to displace the oil, go through the line, and then what this adjuster does here is it can be opened or more closed to reduce the flow, which in return stiffens up the shock. So in a lot of cases, we're not a big fan of that, but for what these trucks do, and you want a good ride on the street, and you want a little bit more bottom control off-road, that's what that does. But what we've done with our kit is we've designed true suspension. So we're taking a King 2.5-inch bump shock. So this is an eyelet to eyelet bump stop, and we put it on a billet aluminum slapper. And what that does is it pushes the geometry. So if you can see the angle of this bump stop, look where it's going. So when you hit the ground with this, if you draw an imaginary line of geometry through this, it's pushing that bump stop energy way out here. Instead, typically you'll see bump stops welded to the frame and hitting the arm here. And this is something we've been doing over 20 years. We've just improved upon the setup and made a much better suspension system now. And that's what we're doing with that bump stop. So this is 2 inches wider. It'll still work with the factory fenders. You could do some trimming or you could install fiberglass. Another thing with these 3-inch coilovers is they're adjustable from the bottom here. King did this really nice adjustment down here. It's got a pinch bolt to tighten it up once you're done adjusting, but it's a lot easier to adjust than trying to do it from the top there. But these coilovers bolt into the stock location. This lower arm setup we have will also accept those shocks. We do longer axles. Our axles are 4340 heat treated material, so really, really high quality materials. We use 1-inch uniball pivots at the frame down here, as you can see. The reason why we do that is if you have to pull the lower arm in on the back and then push the lower arm out in the front to adjust caster, or vice versa, you want more caster or less caster, these spacers sit flat in the frame. If you put a square bushing in here and you adjust that, it's gonna twist the arm. So the angle will be like this, not straight. This always stays straight with the bolt, and it allows the bearing inside here, or the uniball inside here, to pivot like in or out. So no binding. So if you got bushings down there, it's going to bind. It's gonna cause problems. That's why we don't do it, and that's why all the race trucks that are winning races run 1-inch uniballs down there. But that's the front suspension, real high quality. You go out to the back, and what we're doing back here, very similar setup. We got the King bump stop kit here. They use a smaller 2-inch diameter by a 2-inch stroke, but that works really good for the G-outs. We got these Diva rear springs. These are the U402 stage 2s. This truck does have a shell. King has this bracket that bolts on here. As it hits, it's gonna twist and push the load into the side of the springs, which is solid spring steel, so that works really well. Held in by the U-bolts, directly bolts into the frame. And then we have bypass shocks that are gonna bolt in here, and then we have that extra bracket down there, so that it actually gets a full bypass shock. I'll show you on the other side here what these shocks look like. So they have smooth body shocks and bypass shocks. This one, we're gonna be doing the smooth body shocks, and they also have these 3.0 bypass shocks. So different ways to go about it. We're just cycling some stuff and trying some stuff out on this particular build, but wanted to show that off to you. So when you're at Camberg, keep in mind, one of the things we do here is we engineered the world's best suspension, and everything we do is because of racing these trucks. So we race these off-road trucks at the highest level, and we're building race-winning trucks, race-winning suspension. We have Justin Park, look him up, look at all the races he won this year, as well as a championship on all Camberg suspension. We are not a lift kit company. We are a performance suspension company. So if you want guys that build, prep, maintain, and race these trucks to build your suspension, keep in mind, that's what we do here at Camberg. Every other suspension company that we know of does not do that. So there you go. Camberg Racing.